HDR stands for High Dynamic Range. It is a technique that gives your images a wider dynamic range than one captured by the camera. Nowadays, it's more commonly known as exposure blending, but it's basically the same thing. The aim of HDR or exposure blending is to represent a scene as closely as possible to how you saw it, not to give it some garish looking alien planet-like scene like it used to do when HDR images were first introduced. Now, to get a HDR image, you get a series of different exposures of exactly the same thing. So if you had a static landscape, you would put the camera on a tripod, take a photo with a darker than normal exposure, then take a normal exposure, and lastly take a brighter than normal exposure. If your camera didn't move at all between shots, you could then bring them back into your computer and blend them together to give you a high dynamic range image. This would give you more detail in your shadows or more details in your highlights that may be lost when you take just one image with your camera. Talking of cameras, dynamic ranges are getting much better and much wider in modern cameras. But if you're struggling to get any detail in the darker or the brighter parts of your shots, or alternatively when you expose for the sky, and the dark bits go completely black, or if you expose for the shadows and your sky becomes completely white, this is when to get your camera on a tripod and take 3 images so you can blend them together afterwards, increasing the overall dynamic range of your photo, producing a high dynamic range image. Now, if you want to learn how to do this, click on this next video here. And if you want to learn some tips for better landscape photography, click on this video down here. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for weekly tutorials in photography. I'll see you next time.